Hello, we are doing the 6.9 tutorial in this lesson. To begin, let's go ahead and start a new drawing. Make sure to load your template files that were supplied by the teacher. Where you saved them could be anywhere, but make sure you save them in a good known place to you. Mine are stored in my documents in the folder McFatter templates. We're going to be using the McFatter ACAD template. I'm going to turn off the grid. This part you're not going to need to do. I'm going to go ahead and insert 6.9 image so we can work on this together. So to begin with this, we're going to want to do the overall on this. If we look at the majority of the dimensions on this, we're also going to notice that they are at 3 places. So let's set our units up for that. First, I'll start off with units. U-N-I-T-S. Change the precision to 3 places. Then I'm going to go do my dim style, D-I-M. Click on dimension style. Modify, primary units tab, precision to 3 places. Hit OK and close. Now I'm going to start off with the line command in the home tab. I'm going to start with a rectangle. Let's make sure our ortho command is on. The longest measurement is 4.687. 4.6, backspace, 687. Enter. Next dimension, we're going to do with the max height, which on this side here, on the left side, 1.5. So we're going to go down 1.5. Enter. Then I'm bringing it back across. 4.68. 7. Enter. Bring it back up. 1.5. Enter. Right click, enter. So the next thing we should go ahead and do is start laying out all of our circles. To start with this, I'm going to do the outer circles. I'm going to do a radius circle. Notice here it says 2 times R.781. So I place that circle there. 0.781. Now with this circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it in the correct locations. You'll notice here that it's at the end of the furthest distance, here and here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the move command. Move. It's going to ask me for select my objects. I'm going to select the circle. Right click. Then it asks me to specify base point. I'm going to start with the quadrant on this side. Once I select that, I now can move the circle around. I'm going to go to the midpoint located right here, and that moves the circle into the location I want it in. If any of the snap points do not show up, you can turn them on using the object snap command. Notice that I did not turn off ortho. Object snap will break ortho. That's something to keep in mind when you're drawing lines. If you want to keep a consistent straight line, make sure not to snap to something that might not be at the same height as the line you want to draw straight. So from here, I'm going to make a copy of this circle. I'm going to select the circle. I'm going to use the copy command. Now at the bottom of the screen, it says specify base point. I'm going to grab the quadrant of the circle and move it to the midpoint on this side. Right click, enter. Now I have both circles in place. What you'll notice is this is a shape reminiscent of a band-aid. You'll see that the arc comes across, but the quadrants on the top and bottom, they get cut off. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So use the trim command. Use the top line as one cutting plane, and the bottom line is the other cutting plane. Right click. Select the bottom of the circle, top of the circle. Right click, enter. Follow the same procedure on this side. Trim command. Selecting cutting plane. Selecting cutting plane. Right click. Select the top and the bottom. Right click, enter. And I'm going to do a crossing window to select both of the circles that are access and delete them. I now have the two sides of my circles. So the next thing I'm going to do is lay out my center lines for the holes. For this, what I want to do is I want to change my layer to center line. This is lined up straight through the center. So what I'm going to do is draw a line from the middle here, all the way across the middle here. Notice how the circle is intersecting right in the center. From my right side, I'm going to do some offsets or copy command. Either one will work. In this case, let's go ahead and use copy. I'm going to select this line here, right click, pick a base point, and then move to the left in that direction. I'm going to type in the first measurement, 0.281, 0.281, enter, right click, enter, right click, repeat copy. I'm going to do the next measurement that comes off of that at 1.375. So while I'm in the copy command, I'm going to select my object, right click, pick a random spot down at the bottom, and then move across to the left at 1.375, enter. Now, because I have a series of dimensions, let me enter that are 1.375, the more quicker, easier method would be to use the offset command. With the offset command, I'm going to type in the dimension once, 1.375, 0.375, enter. And now I can just select that line and move to the right-hand side. Then I can select that line and move to the right-hand side. I can continue the offset command and use it repeatedly if I don't right-click to enter the command. So it's a handy little tool to use the offset. So the copy you do one at a time, or you could use a baseline spacing, continuous measurements, which just gives you the variety of methods you could use for AutoCAD. So these lines here, I'm going to highlight all of them, select them and change them to center lines. The escape key. Next thing I'm going to do is from that center line in the middle here, I'm going to copy that down, 0.531. So let's go ahead and use the offset command. 0.531, enter. Select my baseline, bring it down, selecting anywhere down below. And that's my center line for these holes at the bottom. Then from there, we'll notice that it goes back up 1. Right-click, enter. Right-click, repeat offset at a distance of 1, enter. Select my baseline and pull up, click, right-click, enter. All right, now these holes are laid out, or the center lines are laid out for the holes. Let's go ahead and put in our holes. We have 6 holes that are 0.218. Let's go ahead and draw that. We'll do a center diameter command. Pick our circle and just place it right here down at the bottom. Now we can type in the diameter of 0.218. Enter. As you'll notice, I didn't change the layer, so I'm going to select that item and change the layer to layer 0. Hit escape. I'm going to select this circle. You know what? To save ourselves some time and effort, let's go ahead and change that actually to object layer. Hit escape. Notice that's a nice bolder line type. Now we'll go ahead and select that and hit the copy command. Make sure to get the center of the circle. And then we'll lay it out at the locations given. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's go ahead and place those. Be careful which snap you're using. I can also select this arc here and this arc here, change them to object layer. Now we need 2 more circles. If you look closely, you'll see the center mark right here. And that center mark is the same center mark that's being used for this outer circle. So they share the same center point. So in order to do that, let's change our layer to object. And now we're going to go ahead and draw a circle diameter. If we hover over the circle, you'll see the center point shows up. Place it on that center point. And then we'll type in the diameter of 0.531. Enter. Then we'll take that circle, select it, use the copy command, select our point of reference in the middle, move it across, just touching on the circle, reveals the center mark, and then move the center mark and do our left click. Right click, enter. So now we have our holes laid out, our center lines, and our outer arcs. Let's go ahead and trim off the border. So we're going to do a trim command. We're going to use these circles here and here. Right click, and then select the rectangle outer edges. Now, don't select this line because then we have to do extra work. So we're going to right click and enter. And then we could just take these lines here and here and delete them. Now we can select this line and this line here and change it to object. Hit the escape key. And now that the drawing is laid out, I'm going to remove the excess information. These center lines we'll put back in with the centerline command. So we're going to remove them for now. Hit the delete key. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and change our layer back to center. And we're going to go to the annotate tool, use the center mark, and we're just going to go through and select all of the circles and mark where their centers are. Between the time of me recording this, the template may have changed and your center marks might look a little bit better than mine are right now. That's okay. I'm going to right click and that command. Now that I have all my center marks laid out, I'm going to go back to home. I'm going to change my layer to Anno. And then I'm going to do some linear dimensions. Let's start with our overall from N to N. Placing that dimension there. Right click, repeat dimension. Let's use the circle that's right here and put our dimension in from here to there so that our dimension goes to the right. Remember, if I was to go from right to left, the dimension would have gone on the left-hand side. But since I went from the left to the right, that placed the dimension on the right-hand side. All right, let me continue the dimensions. Repeat dimension. Placing it from here to here. Then I'm going to line it up with this other dimension. Right-click, repeat dimension. Selecting on that base point there and that base point there. I'm going to line it up with the dimensions. Right-click, repeat dimension. Placing it here and here. Oops, that is not where that goes. Let's hit the escape key. Right-click, repeat dimension. Base point here to this smaller hole. And then I'm going to go ahead and place that dimension there. All right, so the bottom is now complete. Let's go ahead and do the left-hand side. Repeat linear dimension. I'm going to go from the end of this line to the end of that line. Place that dimension in place. Now, you'll notice on this particular dimension that it's not 3 places. If you ever come across the point where you need to do that, what you can do is select the dimension, right-click properties, and then we can go to our primary units in the properties and change our position for this individual dimension to 2 places. I'll go ahead and I'll exit out of properties, hit the escape key, and now you'll notice that this one particular dimension will have 2 places instead of 3. Next, let's go ahead and get the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and do a linear dimension from the bottom to the middle. Oh, that was supposed to be to the bottom holes. Let's go ahead and right-click, repeat dimension. Select that bottom hole in the middle and pull that dimension. As you know, this dimension goes up and over. Now I'm going to go ahead and right-click, repeat dimension, putting it from the hole here to the hole there, and pull that across. It looks nice and clean. And on this dimension here as well, you'll notice that it's 2 places. So let's go ahead and change that. Highlight the dimension, right-click, properties, swing down to the primary units, change our position here to 2 places. Click there, hit the escape key, and close out our properties. So now, the only last linear dimension that I have on here is the 3.125. Let's go ahead and put that dimension in, linear. Go from the top of this circle to the top of this circle, and then place this accordingly. All right, so now we're going to do our leaders for the diameters and radiuses of the circles. For this, I'm going to change my linear tool to my radius tool or my diameter tool. Let's go ahead and get the radius out of the way. So I'm going to select the radius tool. Let's go ahead and do this radius right here. Select the guy that we want to dimension, place our dimension. Then we can double click on the text and type in 2x, 2, capital X, space. Then while I'm done with that, I can select with a left click anywhere else. And then that saves that text. What you'll also notice is that the dimension has now covered our center lines that we put in before. So in order to fix that, we're going to select that dimension. We're going to right-click, properties. And here on lines and arrows, where we see our center marked, it's currently set to line. We're going to change that to none. Hit the escape key. We're going to leave properties open for now because we're going to be using that for next couple dimensions. So let's go ahead and do the diameter of 0.531, this circle. This is going to be a diameter this time, so change our dimension tool to diameter. Select the circle, and then place it where you can clearly see it. Going to click on this dimension twice with my left click. Now I can type in 2x, 2, capital X, space. And then I'm going to click with my left click anywhere else. That dimension is now set. Now let's go ahead and put a dimension in for this little hole right here. I'm going to select that smaller hole because I'm still currently in the dimension tool. Apparently not. I'm going to hit the escape key, get out of whatever command that was. Going to use diameter tool. Selecting the circle and placing it down here. And this one is going to be labeled 6 times. So select that, type in 6 capital X space, select anywhere in the black. All right, we're looking good here. Let's go ahead and clean up the 2 diameter dimensions. I don't want the center mark, so I'm going to go to my lines and arrows and change that line to none. I'm going to hit the escape key, select this dimension here, go into lines and arrows where it says center mark, and change that to none. I'm also going to go in and add some more lines to show relationships between the circles to show that they are in line with each other. I'm going to change this here to center line. And using my nearest snap, I'm going to draw a line somewhere within this area here. We don't want to cover up the gap, so just somewhere along here. And move it across and place one around here. Now it gives me a nice clean center line break because the distance is far enough. Right click, repeat line. I'm going to go ahead and select the nearest point anywhere along here. And then select one anywhere along here. Right click, enter. Now this line is not far enough away, or the scale is not small enough for the break to happen. This is fine for now. It's acceptable for the size of this drawing. We're going to repeat line. I'm going to use this nearest point anywhere along here. And grab another one right along here. Right click, enter. So I have 2 nice center lines. Repeat line. I'm going to put another one right around here. And another one right about here. Right click, enter. And then I want to attach one repeat line to show the relationship of these 2 circles on either side. I'm going to go ahead and place this one here and bring this across to here. Right click, enter. I get 2 nice clean breaks because of the distance. So now this drawing to me, I believe, looks correct. Let's go ahead and check our dimensions, make sure everything is located where it needs to be. I'm on the correct layers for all the different elements. All right, so now we can go ahead and start our layout procedure. I'm going to go ahead and delete this so it's not in the way. Hit the center scroll button twice to zoom in. I do not need my properties anymore. Now, the assignment says to lay this out in a 8.5 by 11 sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my 8.5 by 11 landscape. I'm going to hit the center scroll button twice to go ahead and zoom in the sheet. And then once I'm into the sheet, I'm going to click on the face of the sheet twice. That brings me into the viewport. From here, I'm going to hit my center scroll button twice, zooming to the extents of the drawing. From here, I'm going to go change my scale to 1:1. Now the drawing is scaled correctly. On the outside gray area, I'm going to select with the left click twice to get out of the viewport. This is now the part where you're going to go ahead and put in all your notes for the project, the scale, drawn by, and the date. Once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and print it. But before we print it, let's go ahead and make sure we saved our drawing. Do note, it's always a good practice to save. We should have saved our drawing earlier on. So we're going to go ahead and save. It will default to save as because this drawing has been saved. We're going to call it the 6.9. Make sure you save it in the correct location that you've been instructed to save it in, preferably a folder with your name, and in that name folder will be folders for chapter 6 and whatever chapters you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now to print it, I'm going to go to the A button, hit the print button. It's going to give you an option for batch plotting. We're going to continue with a single sheet. And make sure you're in the DWG to PDF. Everything should be set up from here. You can always preview it to make sure everything looks nice and clean. Have all your dimensions. When you're done, you can hit this little X. Then hit OK to print it. You will get a command prompt asking you to save the drawing. Make sure you save it in a similar location to the drawing file. And then this is where you'll be able to take this assignment and hand it in. This has been a drafting tutorial. Hope you've enjoyed it, and see you in the classroom. Bye-bye.